Welcome to You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Nothing feels as good as listening to your own voice, and each week we have conversations to help you do just that. Get comfy, grab your favorite fun drink, and let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, it's episode 3 of season 3. Okay, so that's a lot of 3, so that's got to be like some good luck or something. But I am so excited to be here. And I'm excited to have a fun conversation today. This episode is coming out, if you're listening to it in real time, right before Halloween. And so we want to talk a little bit about that, about what we like about it, but maybe about what we don't like about it, and just see where the conversation goes. But before we get started, I wanted to ask you, Meg, what is your fun drink of the day? You know, we always have to have like a million drinks on our desk. So what is it for you?
That really is a very real stereotype for us. And we even have it in our intro, like grab your fun drink. That's just, we are fun drink girlies, if that's what one would call us on TikTok, most likely. Today, my fun drink is I feel like I'm going to disappoint the fun drink community a little bit, but it is a Wegmans brand ginger seltzer.
Ooh, I like ginger.
I do too, and it's giving me ginger ale without the soda, although I'm sure it's loaded with wonderful chemicals. It's delicious, and it's really hitting the ginger ale spot. I like my seltzers poured over ice, but also, okay, I'm actually curious on the topic of seltzer, because I've heard this both ways. I have lived in the North most of my life, and I've lived in the South, and now I'm actually kind of in between. So I have heard that only people in the North call it seltzer. And I don't
Oh.
know if that's true, but so please comment and let us know if you're drinking seltzer water. Others call it soda water. I'm sure other people
Oh.
call it other things. What the heck do you call carbonated, bubbly water?
Oh, yeah, I can't help you because I just call it seltzer. New York, here
I
I
call it
am.
seltzer. You're a northern girl, I know.
Yeah.
I like my seltzer over ice pretty much always.
Okay, you want to dilute the bubbles.
I do. I actually, that's a real thing. I used to, as a kid, I would prefer soda after it was a little flattened. So I would take my slightly flattened soda and pour it over bubbles. And it was a real point of contention because everybody else was sucking down their can of soda. And I was like, I'm just going to let mine rest for a little while.
Oh, interesting. We are
Like
the
some
complete
weirdo
opposite.
child.
I want
I
as
was
many
trusting
bubbles as
myself from a young
possible.
age.
Yeah, I want
As
as many
many
bubbles
bubbles
as
as possible.
possible. Please do not give me something with bubbles over ice because the ice makes the bubbles disappear and I cannot have that. Can't have
I've heard
it.
kids refer to it. I've heard of little kids when they try seltzer. I've heard them call it spicy water
Spicy,
because
yes.
the bubbles give that illusion. And I think I'm one of those kids still. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it feels to me. Like if you told me, Meg, drink that seltzer straight out of the can, I'd be like, it's a little spicy, Maggie. I
It's
can't
spicy.
really, it's too much for me, overstimulating, if you will. So
I
I
hear
know you all
ya.
didn't come here today for this discussion on seltzer, but I'm really happy we're having it. And Maggie, we have a green theme going on because I have my green can for my ginger. You have a green can. What is your fun drink today?
I do. I have a lemon lime poppy, which is a prebiotic soda, and I really like these. I
Okay.
really like them. You'll probably see them frequently. Different colors may appear.
Mhm.
But give me all the bubbles, please. Make it as spicy as possible. Not literally spicy because I can't handle that. I'm a baby, but as many bubbles as possible, please. Thank you.
I love it. I
Okay,
love it.
so with that being said, we wanted to talk about Halloween a little bit, okay? And this will probably just be the intro of the conversation that will probably take 8 left turns and we'll end up somewhere else. But starting with Halloween, I don't know if you can tell, like all of a sudden my energy has increased dramatically, and we're talking quite quickly. But you, I hear, are a big fan of Halloween, Meg. Is that true?
I am.
Tell
I
us more.
am. I am a big fan of Halloween. I'm a big fan of anything that has a theme or a moment.
Mm,
That is, I am constantly trying my best to find moments. And my family has picked up on me using the word little. I use little a lot. I'm gonna have a little drink, like a fun drink. I don't really actually even drink alcohol, so not that kind of drink. I'm gonna have a little drink, right? Whether that be a little Diet Coke, seltzer, or whatever. I say I'm gonna go take a little bath or have a nice little long shower. That's me turning something into a moment.
Okay.
So you have to know that about me so I can discuss Halloween, because Halloween is filled with moments, right? You've got spooky season vibes. We can put on a movie each night, have a little moment there. Okay? We can have candy that is in the shape of Halloween.
You're making
There
it
are,
sound more fun.
I know, I'm going to convince you of this afterwards. We have pretzels that are in the shape of jack-o'-lanterns. Who's going to tell me that a pretzel doesn't taste better when it's a pumpkin shape?
It's definitely better as a pumpkin shape, that's for sure.
It's
The Reese's are
phenomenal.
also better as pumpkin shapes or ghosts.
Halloween is the epitome of cozy and scary, I guess. But I don't really go on the scary side because I don't really like scary movies. But I will surrender to one in order to have the moment. So yes, I love Halloween, but more specifically as a human being, I love anything that I can turn it into a little, here we go, moment or event in life.
Mhm. Well, that
And
just
I've
sounds
heard,
lovely.
hold on, we have to back up. The rumors I've heard is that you are not a Halloween lover, and it is a point of contention in our podcast host relationship. And I need you to tell me and the listeners why you might not be the biggest fan of Halloween.
Okay, before I do that, I would also just like to note that if you've been here for a while, you know some of the other points of contention, including the coffee tea situation. There's some others, but yeah, we can add this one to the list. Just places where Meg and I are magically different. Anyway, um, okay, so here's the deal for me. Okay, I don't like dressing up at all, ever. Like, I will get dressed up for, like I'm going to a wedding or something like that, but I don't want to wear a costume. I don't like
Mm.
costumes. And you can say that I'm no fun. That's totally fine. I will accept that badge of honor because I don't want to be any fun. I don't want to dress up. I don't want to wear the costume. I don't want to go to the party. Okay. I really like the cozy vibes that you described though. So when you bring up Halloween from that light of like it's cozy, it's fall, we have lots of pumpkins, we have pumpkin shaped treats, I'm all for that. But
Mm.
I'm not for the like dressing up party aspect of Halloween. I just never have liked it for like I don't know, like just even as a little kid, I never wanted to get dressed up for Halloween. I never knew what to be. I never like it just wasn't, my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that has carried over and I'm not afraid to say it.
I love and hate that you're not afraid to say it. There is a part of me that loves it, right? Because you trust yourself. And I bet little Maggie was out there like, you are being stupid. Like, I'm just going to be Maggie for Halloween. Why are you all dressing up as different people?
No, I felt
No.
so like wrong. I felt so wrong, and everyone always made me feel wrong. Well, I felt like everyone was making me feel wrong. That's probably not what was actually happening. But I always felt like, no, like you need to dress up. You need to figure out what you're going to be for Halloween, and it has to be good enough. And I never felt like I was good enough, and I just never liked it. But I never allowed myself to just not like it. Like I always felt like I had to.
Well, that has concluded our Halloween fight because now you've just broken my heart thinking
Yep.
about little Maggie who didn't think she was good enough to
Yeah.
wear the things. And now I can't argue with you anymore. And I feel terrible that I assumed that you thought you were too cool for school when that was not the
No,
case.
in fact, I thought I was like the most uncool and should just leave school.
Mm. Well, you've taken all of my ammo away, and now I am only thinking about little Maggie, who felt uncool, and my
Yeah.
heart can't go on with this discussion. However, I am curious from the listeners, now that you've heard our 10-minute debacle about Halloween, I want to know your thoughts on it. Do you give in to spooky season? Do you dress up? Do you go to parties? If so, where are they? Can I have an invitation? I don't get invited to Halloween parties. I would like to be invited and I would like to dress up. And I have not gotten a Halloween invitation since I left probably elementary school, and I am available and ready. So you let me know.
You can take all my invitations. If I get any, I'll just forward them directly to you.
Honestly, it's perfect. Okay, so little more about mine, just a little more specific. I just have a really fun time. I don't get dressed up typically either, right? Like we're both pretty casual. You wear a lot of like athletic clothes, and I wear a lot of lounge wear, and just I would say we're both pretty casual people. I think that we have in common. But I live for a dressing up moment. So do you remember in school, if your school had like Spirit Week, where you'd
Oh,
have
yeah.
like crazy hair day or mismatch day or whatever the theme was? I didn't always take full advantage of it, and I wish that I had. But now as an adult, I'd like to really bring it back in this season of my life. So I would really like to have those days to be able to dress up, just put a little dazzle on life, if you will.
Mhm.
That's what I look forward to. I'm looking for any moment. This is going to sound bad, but it's not meant to be bad. Life is life. Here we go. I'm going to try and give some wisdom. It's just always lifing, right? Things can get a little mundane, a little routine. You're just going through the motions. So my way of making my life more enjoyable is to give it moments and events and fun little sprinkles of those kinds of things, right? And what can sprinkle fun into your life more than a crazy hair day?
Sure.
This discussion isn't going anywhere, but listeners, please let us know in the reviews, in the comments. Are you celebrating? Are you not? Tell us some stories.
Okay.
Let us
But
know.
here's the first left turn that I want to take off this conversation. Okay. So, going back to what I just said before about how I never used to feel okay or like good enough to not like Halloween. Like it was unacceptable that I didn't like Halloween, right? Now I have gotten to a place 30 years later where I feel like it's acceptable to not like Halloween. Okay. And I am not afraid to decline the Halloween party invitation. I am, not afraid to not really participate in the parts of it that I don't like. You, on the other hand, I feel more empowered to participate more fully in all of the parts of it that you do like, where maybe you didn't take
Mm-hmm.
full advantage of that in the past. Okay. So I'm
Yes.
curious of like what that feels like for you of saying, "Ooh, I really like this thing and I don't really care what other people think about whether or not I like it." Like,
Mm.
what does that feel like for you and how do you actually like go about doing that thing, right? Like you're like, "Ooh, I want to dress up." Like, how does that go?
I, I'm going to turn something that's light into something a little bit deeper, but it's been a little bit of a transition for me. I used to play it way more safe. So I remember, it's actually super interesting. When I was back, which if you listen to last week's episode, you'll remember that I was originally in a school psychology program. So with that being said, I was in a school setting all the time, right? I was going to school and doing the things, and I love educators and any of our teachers who are listening, and my mom is an educator, and I always just felt like everyone dressed so similar. And I don't want that to become offensive or anything like that, but I just would look around the building and I'd be like, oh my gosh, if I see one more cardigan with a t-shirt underneath that says, spread kindness, I'm going to go crazy in this building. And this is not, somebody's going to be like, I have that in my closet and I find you extremely offensive, Megan. Uh, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. I want to have some fun with my outfits. So it was actually during that time that I started having more fun. Okay, I would start to wear silky tops weren't really in style at that time. I would still bring back some leopard print or satin pants or just things that weren't common, I would start wearing fuzzy shoes. I love a fuzzy kitten heel moment. And so as I've gotten older, I've started to become more daring when I am dressing up, of just dressing for me, right? And so whatever setting I was going into, I would start to just dress for myself. So one of those examples last year, it was one of my favorite things. I hope my friend Amanda is listening. I got invited to a pink Christmas party, and it was the highlight of my life. Okay. I had an opportunity to wear as much pink as I wanted to a Christmas party, and I could not be more excited. And I remember asking her, like, what should I wear? And she's like, you'll just wear like a pink sweater or whatever. And I felt the desire to wear a full head to toe pink satin, almost like pajama top and bottom, like jumpsuit. Okay.
That
And
sounds lovely. Okay, go on.
it, it was a moment, Maggie. And we couldn't stop there. I couldn't just have the satin pink top and bottom. I needed full pink furry heels to go with the outfit, right? So I show
Obviously.
up to this person's house, and it's gorgeous, by the way, and it's pink, and it's so fun. Even her cabinets in her kitchen were pink, not for the event, just because she liked pink cabinets, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. And a lot of the other people there were more casually dressed, like just a sweater, or some people even just had like a pink bow on their shirt. Like, no, I committed to the bit, okay? I committed to the pink theme. And I remember in that moment feeling like, oh God, I kind of am like the only one that's like all decked out in pink. And I thought that would bother me a little more, but then I was having so much fun with my outfit that it absolutely did not matter. So I think that's kind of where a lot of that comes from for me, is when we start to dress for ourselves or do different things for ourselves or trust ourselves, right? To lack of a better word, I had so much fun in that outfit, and it didn't really fit the status quo and it didn't really go with the vibes. But I learned that I find joy in dressing up, like costume style, themes. I was a theater kid, like that fills my heart with joy. And so as an adult now, any opportunity that I get, again, I'm looking for invites to things that are themed events. I really take it and run with it.
Ooh, okay. I love that. First of all, that sounds fun. Okay, I don't have to put on like a costume. I can just wear like a color palette. I'm in. Okay, we'll commit to that. But speaking of committing, it sounds like that is really the thing that changed the experience for you, right? Is like you're fully committing to dressing up in at the level that you want to, right? And then even when you show up and you realize that no one else has committed to the level that you have committed, you stuck to
Hmm.
that commitment and you were like, "No, I'm here. I'm in my pink velvet jumpsuit and I got my pink furry heels and I am so excited to be me in this moment." And that
Mm.
is what allows you to show up as your best instead of doing what we all have and do is second guess ourselves, right? Feel uncomfortable,
Yes.
feel like, oh, maybe I should be more like them, right? And
Hmm.
why though? Why?
I
You
know.
know?
Have you ever
Mhm.
met Maggie? And I'll share my story after, but I'm curious for you first. Have you ever been around someone, and it doesn't just have to be their style or their look, but you met someone and something that they were doing you could tell was for themselves and themselves alone? Have you ever felt inspired by someone you met who was just doing their thing? Do you
I
have an
am
example?
I'm not sure there's anything more inspiring, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of anything like particular off of the top of my head, but you know that moment when you step into someone's space or you're just with them and you can tell that they're in their element doing something that is like you said for them.
Mm-hmm.
You at least what happens for me is I look at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, they believe in themselves so much. They
Mm.
do not care what anyone thinks of them because they know that this is what's best for them and they're going to do it no matter what anyone else has to say, right? No matter what anyone
Mm.
else thinks about it. And whenever I see that, I am like, oh, she did it. I could do it. Right. And it gives me a little bit more inspiration to do whatever the thing is that I want to
Mm-hmm.
do. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that I am that person for a lot of people. I feel like I am that person in a lot of situations for a lot of people. But I also am the person that catches myself second guessing myself in situations where I'm like, I want to say no to this invitation and I'm second guessing that, or I want to go do this thing and I'm second guessing it because, that's weird, like no one does that or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And it I always feel so inspired when I see someone doing that. What about you?
Me too. It's actually probably something that's the most attractive quality about other people. I It has been an ever-growing journey to become more and more authentically myself, right? And I'm closer than I've ever been, and I still have so much more to go. I am a classic shapeshifter in the sense that growing up, I would chameleon my way through, depending on which room I was in and who I was talking to. I was Meg, but Meg was shifting. Meg was
Mhm.
embellishing different parts or hiding other parts, right? And so it's actually, he'll love to hear this, it's actually my husband that inspired me the most with that. It was probably one of the qualities that I found most attractive about him, if not most attractive, is that he is himself everywhere he goes, right? Like he is just, I have seen him in so many settings, work, family, friends, with me, with whoever. That man is himself through and through. And it is so inspiring to me. I'm like, wait, you're not going to like change this or say a little more of that or embellish this or, when we're in a setting with like all these cool business people, you're not going to like make yourself sound a little better, right? Like you're not going to like pump your tires. And he's not. He's not. He's just him. And it is so incredibly refreshing, and it inspires me to continue to become more and more myself. So yes, I have had those experiences with people, my husband and others, and it's always so interesting to think like, I wonder if my outfit that night, right, my full head to toe pink getup outfit, if somebody else looked at that and they were like, you know what, next year I want to go a little bolder with it because she did it and it worked and I want to do it. And it's just a cool thing as humans to inspire each other and be like, how can we continue to become more and more ourselves and trust ourselves to follow our interests and desires and actually follow through with wearing the thing for it. Or
Yes.
not
Oh,
just wearing
I
the
love
thing, but doing the things.
it.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the first things that you told me about Matt, about him, of, how he's just always himself, which is, that's so special. Shout out to Matt. Love you. Okay, great. Moving on. Um, I think that this applies to so many things, and it is so hard to make decisions that feel really bold. It is so
Mm,
hard to follow that. For me, it's a gut feeling, but it might feel differently for other people. Um, it's so hard to follow that gut feeling about something when it goes against what the majority of other people are doing. It's so challenging. Like, going back to Halloween, I still feel uncomfortable in the moment when I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to do
mhm,
this thing, right? And
mhm.
sometimes I do go because, socializing with the people that are going to be there is more important than my dislike for dressing up, right? Sometimes I still do go. But
Sure.
it's also okay for me to not love everything that everyone else loves. It's okay for
Mm,
you to not like every single thing or have to want to do every single thing that someone else around you does, right? And it's so challenging, like you said, to step into being more authentically ourselves. It's so hard, and it's something that I don't think we ever really like get there. It just, we always continue to get a little better and we figure out more about ourselves. And who knows, maybe one day
right.
I'll like Halloween, probably not, but you never know. Um, but it's it's one of those things that just it it's hard. I don't really have any other words. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to say no, I don't want to do that. Or yes, I really like this. Or will you come to this thing with me that I really like?
Mm,
Right? Um, and it's really challenging. And I think that the more that we can just start to learn how we feel in certain situations, or, um, when we're at different places or doing different things, that will help us then realize, oh, I like that thing, or oh, I don't like that thing.
Mhm.
And then we can act in alignment with that a little bit
Mhm.
more, right? Which
Mhm.
then makes it a little easier every time moving forward. But
Yeah.
it's just not easy. That's all I have to say about it.
Something's coming up for me, and I think it's something that you used to say, Maggie, when it was actually like season 1 and 2. I remember you alluding to this a couple times, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you used to say things like, you can practice on a smaller scale so that when you get to the bigger things, it's already more familiar. Do you remember saying things along those lines?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking about that in terms of when we trust ourselves to make decisions that kind of go against the grain, right? In different ways, whether that be in big ways or small ways. I, for the listeners listening, I find that it is a lot easier and harder to practice with ourselves and people closest to us before we go and practice to the masses, right? So I like to start with myself, and I have challenged myself in these ways to go against the grain. So, for example, this is one that I'm actually actively working on currently, and it's a real life example that you may be experiencing too. So, I have had to really come to terms and challenge myself with what hard work meant because I grew up with very hardworking parents. And when I think about my mom in particular, my family of origin, hard work to her is truly working 8 or 9 hours a day as an educator and then coming home and still doing probably another 2, sometimes 3 hours of work at night along with that job. So I grew up with a woman who was able to somehow sustain that 8 or 9 hour workday while also coming home and continuing to work, right? And I, after listening to myself and challenging myself now, I don't align with that. I don't feel well. I don't feel like I'm living a well life for myself following that path. A lot of people might. A lot of people may feel energized by it, right? And I don't. I have had to really challenge myself of what hard work is and challenge my own judgment about going against the grain, right? So I work hybrid right now, training as a therapist and doing the podcast with Maggie. I am sometimes in the office and a lot of times I'm home. And my day is very, I'll have a call at 10, got a session at 11, have a break maybe till 1. My day fluctuates and is flexible. So I would really find myself being like, I have to be at that desk though all day because I gotta work hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so challenging myself recently to be like, can you edit the TikTok from your bed for a minute? Can you go outside and move your legs and just actually stop the work for the hour in between sessions? Can you say, I'm sorry? Like, for example, this is very real life examples. Yesterday, there was a client who inquired, but they only had 6 p.m. open, right? That was their only time they could see me. And my heart wanted so badly to be like, of course, I will rearrange my life and I will see you at 6 p.m., right? But I had to actively, in that moment, decide you're trying to work on getting your day to end, Meg, more like 3 or 4 p.m. because you know that you show up better for yourself and your family when you're not working late at night. You're better to yourself and your family and your husband and your life when you stop sessions by 3 or 4 p.m. and go about your day. That's how you sustain your energy and your ability to help people. So I know that was a little long-winded, but all of that just to say, any listeners watching, sometimes it just, or listening and watching if you're on YouTube, sometimes we have to just start with ourselves, going against the grain of our own beliefs before we can go out there and challenge, however small or however big it may be by making decisions against the grain. Sometimes we have to look within ourselves and say, what the heck can I challenge myself on that goes against the grain of what I grew up believing or what my belief systems are that maybe I don't want to have anymore?
Hmm. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. I completely agree with that. And I think that there are different situations where it's appropriate, like you said, in that situation to start with ourselves and then move towards people that we're more familiar with and then move towards the world. And I think that there's a place for setting boundaries with people that are not close to you first as practice, and then moving that towards people that we're closer with, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to set boundaries with people that we are close with when those boundaries or like going against the grain or making a decision impacts them. Right? If it impacts
Mm.
them, it's
It's a
more
great point.
challenging to do that. So like I think that it takes a little bit of, just um trial and error maybe to realize like, okay, in
Yeah.
this situation maybe I need to practice with this client that I don't know, and then maybe I could do something like that with a family member, where there's
Sure.
other things where you could say, yeah, I'm going to practice making this decision with myself, with my family, and then with the people of the world, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it can go both ways, but I think that I agree with you completely. And work is one of, I think, the most challenging places to challenge those belief systems and go against the grain, right? Whether, like you said, it's what has been ingrained in you because of what you saw as a child, or it's, societal norms, pressures from other people,
Mm-hmm.
pressures of, your gender or your role in a family or any of those things. It's really, really challenging to make a decision that feels best for you. I relate to
Mm-hmm.
you a lot in the sense that when I spend 10 hours a day working, I cannot show up for my family or people in my life that are important to me well. And I have recently started to explore, what does working in a healthy way look like for me, because the ways I've tried to do it in the past has not been healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
it is incredibly challenging when someone asks you, oh, like, how's work? What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that question right now. Like, I own 4 businesses, but I'm not really working in them. And I'm responsible for finances, but I'm not really working. And I have a podcast, and I'm not coaching anymore. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's so
Mm-hmm.
hard to answer those questions to other people.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that you should just keep going on the path of what everyone else is doing just because it's
Mm-hmm.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I keep, as you were saying that, there's so much of me that's like, yes. And similarly what you did, like, I actually, once you opened my mind to being like, actually, it can be the opposite times where you can work backwards, right? Like, it can actually be easier to set that boundary with, a worker at CVS versus somebody in your immediate family who it's going to impact a whole family system. So I actually really appreciate that insight, Maggie, and I'm sure our listeners will too. I also noticed as you were saying that, like, I relate so much to that because our work is different, right? It's a little more fluid. We have a little more autonomy in our schedules and how we do things. And I couldn't help but think about people like my mom. I'm just going with her because she's been the example throughout of being an educator. She doesn't necessarily have the privilege or the option to be like, hey, this 8-hour, 9-hour workday ain't gonna work for me, right? Like this isn't gonna work for me anymore. However, does she have the option to say, for this break, I actually need to just leave this building, right? Or for this lunch, hey, I know we all decided we'd meet on our lunches, but I can't do this going forward because I actually really need my lunch just for myself,
Hmm.
right? So that would be a decision going against the grain of, it's not always easy to totally hijack and do something totally different, but can we find small moments to make it easier for ourselves or more enjoyable for ourselves? But that also, it always, of course, right? It comes back to, can I trust myself to say, I need this, whether that be, I need this from myself, right? I can talk to myself and be like, I need X, to our partners, to our friends, to our family, to anyone else in the world. It starts with that ability to just get clear enough, right, on what we need in a moment. And we have to be able or practice asking for it. And I see you shaking your head, Maggie. Is there anything you could think of, even think about our listeners, like something that they may be experiencing where they're like, I need to push against the grain. How do I start to formulate what that can look like in a real life setting?
Ooh, it's so hard, but it's doable. We can do it. I think it kind of varies situation to situation. So I think that's something that's important to recognize is that the way you approach one situation might not be the way that you approach every situation. So if you feel like something you did before isn't working, you're probably not wrong. Like it's okay, we'll figure it out. But I would say to just like start trying, right? I feel like that's the biggest thing. I know for me, when I know that I have to make a decision or, vocalize a decision I've already made, like fill other people in on what I know that I need,
Sure.
um, it is really easy for me to get stuck in a cycle of quite honestly making excuses as to why I'm not going to do it, right? That's really what it comes down to is like, I'm afraid that this is going to negatively impact me or other people are going to be upset with me. That's my like biggest thought pattern is that I don't want to upset other people. So
Mm.
I'm just going to avoid it and I'm going to avoid it until eventually I can't avoid it anymore. And that is not the best approach for me. Like if I can start to make progress on vocalizing a decision that I've made or, starting to go against the grain or just taking action on it, um, even if it's not perfect, it kind of breaks down that barrier of that fear puts up of starting, right? So even if I don't
Mm.
get it 100% right the first time, it at least creates a little bit of movement, which I can then use as a little bit of momentum to continue to figure it out.
Mm.
I will say that that sounds nice. And sometimes when you mess up, it makes you want to like dive deeper into the hole of staying stuck. And I've totally been there. And that happens to me a lot too. But if you don't try, then you're already in that situation in some sense, right? Like if you never try,
Yeah.
then you are already not moving. So
Hmm.
I find that sometimes you have to just like start to take a little bit of action.
Yeah. And I really notice it's something about you as a host and as a person, as a friend, that you have a very special way of really making things feel more approachable for people,
Thank
right? Because
you.
you're welcome. Because just a little moment there, everybody. It started out with our fight in the beginning, and now we're saying nice things about each other. But you have a really approachable way to do things. And like that's so encouraging for people when something feels a decision or a time that we have to trust ourselves or whatever it may be, right? It can feel just like it's so much I can't even begin. And I'm noticing that it's a theme right now with some of my clients. It's coming up where they're like, it's just too big to like, where do I even start? Right? Like it feels too scary to even start. And so you have a special way of making things feel like we can take this one tiny, tiny step at a time and move towards it. And I'm also curious, one of the other things that I heard you say is that sometimes you tend to avoid in certain scenarios. I am also a classic avoider. Not my favorite thing about myself, but a realistic part about myself. So I'm actually really curious if any of our listeners who are listening right now are like, yep, I'm an avoider too. Let us know because we can have more conversations about that. Because it seems like Maggie and I both are as well, that we have to, how do I put this? We have to actively try not to avoid.
Yes.
Right? Like we have to, it is an active practice that we have to do, that we know that avoiding decisions or uncomfortable conversations is not the healthiest way to go about things, right? Because it can lead to more distress than just doing what the thing is. So we know that it's not our healthiest skill. And it's still a natural default to want to be like, can I just push this out for as long as possible? But here's the thing, if we're talking about in a real life example, and I know I'm just going with the theme of my mom today. She's going to love this. She's going to listen and she's going to be like, oh my gosh, it was about me. If you know my mom, you'd laugh because like she would love if we just did lots of episodes on her. Anyways, I'm going with this example as an educator of the byproduct of not asking for what she needs or doing what she needs to take care of herself, whether it's in those 5 minutes or that walk on her break, or saying this time for the meeting, I know you all want to have it here, but this is technically my lunch and I really need to just have my lunch. The byproduct of not doing that, though, can be extremely wearing on our emotional, mental, and physical states. So the byproduct of me giving into that origin belief of hard work means that I'm at my desk 8 or 9 hours a day. Well, why am I forcing myself to do that if it's not the reality that I have to have, right? Who is it serving? It's not serving me. It's not going to serve my clients. It's not going to serve you all here on the podcast because I need energy to serve you all. And the only way to get energy is to go and pour it into myself. So with that being said, and your approachable part, Maggie, this is probably the last part that I have to say on this topic, unless there's something that you want to ask me, is, like Maggie said, just the slight momentum of trying to feel out what could work for you and just putting the feelers out there of what decision you could make to trust yourself to move towards, what may be quote unquote going against the grain. I know that's the theme of our episode. Throwing the feelers out there is already doing something with it.
Yep.
And so I encourage our listeners to even just begin imagining what that could look like, because that's still some momentum.
Yeah, for sure. And to tie that all back to the beginning, our lovely conversation about Halloween. You want to dress up? You go for it. You go dress up. You dress up to the fullest of your heart's desire. And if you don't and you want to stay cozy on your couch, you can come join me on my couch where we'll be nice and cozy and in our PJs and not dressed up for Halloween.
I love it. I love to pull it back together. And remember, if you have an invite that you're not going to use, I will take it. Bring it to the DMs, let me know where it is, and I am happy to crash every Halloween party around.
We'll default all invites to you. This was lovely.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hope you all have a very safe, happy, healthy Halloween if you're celebrating. If you don't celebrate, hope that you're just having a great week, and we can't wait to connect with you soon. Don't forget to find us on socials. Leave a review. We want to hear from you. We can't wait to connect even more. And one other thing, Maggie, I want to ask our listeners. We have been trying to come up with like a community name forever, just like something that's like ties into You Can Trust Yourself podcast and some kind of catchy name for our community. A lot of podcasts have them. We can't think of one. We need your help. So please let us know if you have any ideas of what this community can be called so we can keep connecting in the community.
Yes, agreed. Send in your ideas. Yeah, either I'm assuming we'll make this a clip on social media, so you can comment them under there, or you can just send us a DM because you guys are probably a lot more creative than us. So please help.
For sure. And you are the community, so you helping come up with a community name is actually very fitting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
agreed.
We'll see you all next week.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Our mission is to leave you with encouragement and tools to nurture your ability to trust yourself. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe and please share it with a friend. Then take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Your support helps our show grow, and for that we are extremely grateful. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the episodes. Till next week, lots of trust and love, Meg and Maggie.